So we're going to do a quick tech here for the Niv Mizzet Makes a Wish in Pioneer deck. We've made a few changes since the last version, and I'll just jump through them now. We are running obviously again, I'm a professional, I'll bring in this. Again, we are Niv Mizzet, Bring to Light, Converge, 5 mana, search for an instant sorcery or creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of colours you spend. Ideally, we want to grab Niv Mizzet because when he enters the battlefield, look at the top of your cards in your library, put one of each 2 colour pair into your hand. So aside from, we're pretty much running every card. So the cards we're running that aren't multicolored are the Widespread Thievery, because whenever we cast a multicolored spell, we make a treasure, so it halves the cost of stuff basically. It also has Hideaway, so we can sneak a spell out from underneath it. We have the Caryatids, the Hexproof, Big Butt, Mana Dork, and we have Valky for the Valky Tybalt synergy. So Valky, if you bring to light, grab Valky, you exile Valky, then choose how you want to cast him. So for 5 mana, we can tutor out Tybalt, the Cosmic Imposter, and anyone who's played against him knows he's busted. So then, going down our list from big creatures, small mana first, we have Bull Playset of Vanishing Verse, exile monocolored permanent. We're running a single Drown Lock to counter Kill Something, Tyrant Scorn for Weenie matchups, Dreadbore for Planeswalker Creature Haste, Abrupt Decay for non-land permanent hate, couple of Cindervines here for non-creature spell hate and artifact enchantment hate, Justice Strike for creature hate. We're playing Voice of Resurgence over the the 3 mana druid that can tap for Wooburg, because this is 2 bodies in 1. It's kind of like the old adage I have with Edgar. We're not running Edgar in this deck in this current version. I might switch that back out because Voice hasn't been as impressive as I thought it would be. Currently there's just so much good cheap removal that he just falls early, and it's not as sticky as it used to be as a good counter to control decks. Then we have Wandering Mind to dig through the top 6 for a non-creature non-land card. The Raven's Warning is our wish card, so it is a saga from Kaldheim. Chapter 1, we gain 2 life and make a 1/1 bird. Chapter 2, if a flying creature we control deals damage to a player this turn, we can look at their hand and draw a card. And then finally, Chapter 3, we put a card we own from outside the game on top of the library. And our final card we're running in main board, 1 Supreme Verdict to find off Bring to Light. I swapped this out for the Selfless Glyph Weaver because while that synergy is cool and having a second card you can tutor for, if you draw Deadly Vanity, Selfless Glyph Weaver, you are not casting an 8 mana spell. At least this you can cast a 4 mana spell more reasonably. Let's pull up our sideboard here. So our sideboard is kind of split into 3 halves. We have this half here, 3 parts, sorry. This part is our tutoring sideboard cards. These are our Can Go Either Way cards, and this is our only ever off the wish cards. So what are we going to wish for? Well, depends on the situation. If we're in a major grindy matchup with an opponent and we don't think they'll have an answer for enchantment, for general value we can grab it. Assemble the Legion or Skeleton Swarming. Surprisingly, I've seen Skeleton Swarming actually be quicker on the clock than Legion's Assemble the Legion, but the value of Assemble the Legion is this. Skeleton Swarming forces your creatures to attack, so Assemble the Legion can also be played defensively. If we mega late game and we want a guaranteed fun play, we get Captive Audience. If our opponent is also holding a bunch of cards in hand that might just grind us out, like if they have, for example, a ton of kill spells to just slow us down, then this can be way more impactful and genuinely more fun. I genuinely enjoy playing this when I can. So our 2 potential cards we can also grab if we don't are our 2 gods. We have Clothis, God of Destiny. At the beginning of our first main phase, we exile a card from a graveyard. If it's a land, we add red or green. If it's anything else, we gain 2 life and they deal 2 damage to your opponent. So graveyard hate with a little bit of life gain. And we also have Keranos. Keranos is good for those grindy matchups where, for example, it's going to come down to card advantage, because Keranos has the text, reveal the first card you draw on each of your turns. Whenever you reveal a land card this way, you draw an additional card. Whenever you reveal a non-land card, it does 3 damage to any target. So it basically gives you advantage or bolts something. Even a player or creature or planeswalker, it's very good. So these are the unofficial 4th wish we could go for. As I said, you got to play it by ear where you are, like how much mana do you have, what's the current board state, what are we playing against, what colours are on the table, all things to consider. Now our traditional cyber cards that we bring in, we have additional Wrath in Supreme Verdict, we have Campbell, Consul of the Allocation. This is for the Lotus Field and the Stormy base deck hate, also is it Phoenix? We have Mystic Disputes for the control matchup. We have a D-Spark for the mirror / big mana matchups. And Freedom's Vetoes. So that's the deck. I'm going to show you some replays in this video of us playing it. I had a great time testing it. I'm not going to have any... I didn't record because I wasn't up on the full to record. And I don't think I'll have a chance to get more gameplay this week. So... please enjoy these friendly matches and enjoy my commentary post-match with them. Alright, so this was our first game of the day, or one of our games of the day, and we keep a really good hand here, but unfortunately, in hindsight, it requires the classic, if I can draw, I'm okay. Now, our opponent plays Dauntless Bodyguards. This is very clearly mono-white humans. Fortunately, we have a good string of interaction. They draw Soldier of the Pantheon, which is terrifying again for us. And they start swinging in. We struggling with that again. Fortunately, we get Whitehead Thievery down now. And if you didn't see that, that was 4 lands and a Sin Divine. So that really frustrates me because I can't cast a single spell from my hand. So I concede here because we're down on a 2-turn clock and we're not going to get anything done. So we then move on to game 2. Game 2, we keep a really good hand here where we have turn 4 Dreadball for their turn 1 play if they have one, if it's not that. However, what we can do now is just buy time. Sideboarding wise, we took out a lot of our control pieces and added a few more sweepers and added a few more things to just deal with things. So, they have Hopeful Initiate, so I drop the Raven here. They drop the Kafar to get rid of our bird token. We Dreadball the Kafar to keep the damage down, and then we drop in a Caryatid because it can block everything else on the field. They use the Initiate to kill the Raven's Warning. Again, people just seem to think that because they've got it, it's an interesting thing. We top deck a Verdict, we use the Verdict here, they save their Soldier indestructibly. Now we are on to our turn, down to 6. Using Fable, fetch our, get our deck fin. We bring to light for Niv. We're gaining them a lot of life, but it has to be done here. Niv hits us a huge spread of cards, which is great. Another board wipe to deal with. And now this is perfect because now they've Brutal Cafard. We can blow up the board, get Niv back, get another reload. Our opponent goes into a slew here. We hold back because they're going to activate Cave, but we have the Vanishing Verse for it. And I believe that prompts a concede at this point. Yes, I'm pretty sure that this match doesn't actually go on because we have Vanishing Verse. They know that we have a million ways to kill their creatures. So we head into game 3. Game 3, I don't know what they mulliganed down to, but they really wanted something. I do love it in games where they see your crazy tech and think, oh my god, I must destroy it because it must be the most broken thing in his deck. If they didn't know that I was tutoring with a wish for skeleton summoning. Valia here to slow us down, so we drop in our Caryatid. Our opponent drops in a Luminarch Aspirant and hits us down to 3. We wait till they untap, animate their lands, put a counter on it. They don't attack, so we go for the Abrupt Decay here, and they have a Brave the Elements. Fortunately though, this causes them to tap out because it's Thalia. So we Dreadball Thalia. Before the activation of the trigger, we Justice Strike, so we can't put counters on the protection from creature. This puts us down to 8. So I drop Clothis, and here's how the synergy can work now is, even if he swings with the 3/3 Mutavault, we can block the Soldier of the Pantheon all day, and with Clothis's trigger, we're basically only losing 1 life. I find a Bring to Light here, pass the turn back. Again, they animate both Mutavaults here and try to push through final damage, so I trade and bounce. They play a Sunset Sentinel that I'm not familiar with. So I go straight up for Niv. Niv finds me a huge spray of creatures, and they concede to that because they're down to nothing in hand, and they look at our hand and realise we've got the board wipe to deal with, the Scorn to kill their land. We've got another couple of creatures to dig. It's really insurmountable for them to come back from. Alright, this game we were up against Memphri Duster. We got an okay curve here. They start with a Watery Grave, so I'm expecting a control match. So I decided to throw down the Voice of Resurgence to at least make him play off curve here. If they have removal, they'll have to use it on their turn, which they do. They have a Fatal Push. So now with that dealt with, we go for a Wandering Mind that grabs us a Vanishing Verse. I'm basically going under the assumption that they are a blue-black control deck, so they're probably going to drop something like Narset or something. But they drop a Thing in the Ice, which is quite interesting here. So shocking in, I go for the Vanishing Verse and swing in, get 4 damage in. Opponent drops a Narset, doesn't activate it, which is interesting because it clearly doesn't want it to live. So we Abrupt Decay it, and then they concede, which is very interesting. So it appears to be a blue-black control deck. Now what this deck actually is, because I've run into this player before, this is a Narset wheel deck where they're trying to basically wheel to make us have nothing in our hand. So I keep an atrocious hand, assuming that I'm getting Thoughtseize on turn 1 and don't want to go lower. Thoughtseize never happens, so we go down, they drop a Thing in the Ice, we drop a Caryatid. Fun interaction everyone needs to be aware of. Wandering Mind is a horror, and Thing in the Ice specifically says flip all non-horrors. So it's something that I think a lot of players forget about. We drop a Raven's Warning to just get some advantage here. Ultimately, what I want to do in a control matchup is most players will not be too bothered about the bird if they don't read the second chapter here, where we now get to, if this bird connects, we can look at his entire hand. I don't remember if we connect or not. No, I think they push it. Yep, they push it. We then go for our Wandering Mind. And I make a mistake here. Basically, I can't Fabled Passage because I'm holding my 1 basic island in hand. So Thing in the Ice has to trigger and flip. Our opponent has a Gaia Reach Sanitarium. See more synergies around using Narset to grind out our opponent. I put a card on top of the library. I can't remember what I put here. I think I put a control piece, because this didn't feel like a matchup where we were going to go very long game. Yeah, we put Keranos. Well, Keranos is kind of a bit of both. Now, the fully open mana here scares me, so I'm going to block, keep my life total relative, because if they have a means to get rid of my blockers, I don't want to be in range of a single attack. They go for a Days Undoing. I want to keep this hand because I very much like it. That's what they want to cast ideally with Narset down. So, Widespread Thievery here resolves, finds us another Wandering Mind. We can't cast anything here, so they draw us into a Dovin's Veto. And I've just remembered how this match ends. So, I take this damage here because, fortunately, we draw the Tyrant Scorn. but I also know that I have a veto to counter whatever they try to kill my creatures with. I then go for a Keranos, and they tainted. Oh yes, this is how this ends. I cast Keranos, they don't find a counter, but they do find Fort Distortion. And the game ends when they Fort Distortion me, thinking that I'm holding two interactive pieces. Fortunately, Fort Distortion doesn't hit Niv-Mizzet, and they've burnt their huge spell, knowing now I can reload, and that Keranos will either shock them every turn or draw me additional cards, because blue-black really struggles to get rid of the indestructible cards. Yeah, that one was a quick one. As I said, I played these casually and I just wanted to exhibition it because I'm not going to have time to do much more. Alright, so in this game we start with Yorion and we see an opposing Yorion. So I assume that this is a mirror match and put away a Vanishing Burst. This becomes a mistake later. We see a Triome, more evidence of this potentially being a mirror match. However, I drop the Sylvan Caryatid, and I get hit with the Trial of Ambition. Now, instantly I realize this is either the Enigmatic Creation deck or a Doom Foretold deck. Nadia's presence suggests that it's also the Enigmatic Incarnation deck. However, I make a huge mistake here. I play out two Raven's Crimes. Now, the big issue with doing this is I've essentially locked my next two draws. If I don't hit a land here, which I didn't, hit a Caryatid. So what I started doing, I play a Caryatid. My mana's a bit awkward, so I can't play a Voice as a buffer for Edict effects. And yes, they have the second Trial of Ambition, so we lose our mana dork. And like a fool now, I lock myself into a 4 mana situation because I keep putting cards on top of the deck. We try to land the Voice of Resurgence. There have a lot of exile effects. Nadia's presence here. One thing I will say about this deck is one thing I know from watching gameplay. Do not let them keep a ley line or binding on the field. That's why I took a D-Spark. Because if they can change that into an Agent of Treachery with Yorions in the deck, you're going to start losing permanents. They have a third Trial of Ambition. Insanely good luck for them. They get 3 of the same card, but we can't draw our 5th land. And we don't manage to draw our 5th land. Now at this point, we are pretty stuck. We have the Drown in the lock, but the problem is we don't have the means to deal with it. And at this point, we are just, I believe, too far behind to make it, so we concede and we move into Game 2. Game 2, we do some pretty impressive sideboarding. We go for basically bringing a huge chunk of our control package. We take out some of our spot removal. And I suddenly realize here that Cindervines is actually another card that's absolutely amazing in this matchup. So we start with a Triome. We get Cindervines down immediately as a thing they must answer, because it's instant speed removal if we hold up 1, or it's just like this, it just pings them every time they cast a spell, which can add up. So I resolve to drop a Wandering Mind immediately to try and get a hit, and we get a Tyrant Scorn. Pretty solid there. They hit us with an Oath of Kaya to get rid of our Wandering Mind. We draw our Drown in the Lock again. We put Yorion into hand here, and this is where I make a mistake. So, because I do that, I can't activate the Cindervines in response, so the Enigmatic Incarnation gets a single answer. Unfortunately, they don't have anything huge to get here, so they get the Nimble Lancerness to basically exile a card from our hand. I then decide to destroy that immediately, and I use the Cindervines to get the Enigmatic Incarnation out to prevent them getting more value. We then draw Valky. We again struggle to hit our 4th land. However, end step here, what I do is I abrupt decay Oath of Kaya to get their graveyard count up to 4, meaning that our Drown in the Lock is now turned on in the event they get another Enigmatic Incarnation. Or Fire some Invention, basically. Those are the two things we've got to consider to counter. Another Nadia's presence draws them another card. They're hitting their land drops like it's, well, I won't say. I decided to drop a Caryatid because we have a small buffer. We have an Edict buffer in the Wandering Mind here. they draw a Moonblessed Cleric, and this is where things get interesting. So, they put the Incarnation on top of the deck. I keep the Carroted, because if I can draw a land, I can use Tybalt, which I do. Now I can play Tybalt, provided it resolves, and then I can steal the Enigmatic Incarnation off the top of their deck. Which we do. We hit a land off our own. Now this is good for us. Now they may just have exile removal to get rid of it. However, we're playing pretty well. Well, they have a Deputy Detention, which is pretty squishy on our end, so we're pretty solid here. Now we can use our Bring to Light to grab a Niv to reload our hand. We grab a couple of cards. I suit to hold up the Drown in the Lock in case they find another means to go off here. I choose to let the Omen of the Sea resolve because they don't have anything too scary. Now, since Fires is their second spell, I let it resolve knowing that I can Vanishing Verse it before it returns to their turn. Which I do. Again, I play a tap land instead of using the exiled lands from Tybalt. My mistake there. We exile the Fires of Invention, we drop a Cindervines, we hold up mana, we can now Drown in the Lock and activate Cindervines if we have to. Trial of Ambition comes down. I choose here to Drown in the Lock it. I want to keep both these creatures on the field if possible. They play a Yorion and blink their entire board. And since we've tapped awkwardly here, we can't do anything about it, but Valky comes back because they get rid of their Deputy Detention, and they stack their triggers. Interestingly, they choose to, well, the awkward thing is they put the Deputy's trigger on the Cindervines, and they put the Edict on us. I believe the replay has crashed here, which is unfortunate. But all you need to know here going forward, if we can get it to run, is we basically grind out here because, as you see, we have Vanishing Verse. They go for basically going for a they use Leyline Bindings at instant speeds to remove Niv from combat for us. So we Vanishing Verse that, then we Yorion Blink Niv. We get 2 Niv activations in a single turn, and it's absolutely gross and disgusting. Finally, game 3. Let's see if this one recorded. If it didn't, I'm going to scrap the recording and no one will see this. This is what I hate about the replay function on this game. Like, I played this like 15 minutes ago. Alright, final game here. We hold a pretty solid hand. We have a great curve where we can go turn 2 Cindervines into turn 3 Ravens or Widespread Thievery here. So we use Cindervines on 2. They drop a tap land. They go miss a land drop, which I think was a mistake on their part. We drop a second Cindervines under the Widespread Thievery. They drop Annihilier's Presence. Very good card there. We get our Mystic Dispute here. So we go for the Raven's Warning. We now can Mystic Dispute if they draw the 4-drop. However, they just go for a chain to take out our bird token. They go for a Moonblessed Cleric, and we have the same trick again here. Since we have a Niv in hand, we can just Bring to Light, take their use Valky, take their Leyline Binding that they've put on the top here, and since we've got a huge reduction here from it, it's pretty solid. So we Leyline Binding, grab Valky, flip into Tybalt, and they concede knowing that we stole the top card of their deck. My guess is they were going to use that to get rid of Cindervines because it was unfortunate. Again, showing the power of Cindervines. I think it's an underplayed card. I know it gets answered a lot, but I think the versatility of this, because it's not just like a Rest in Peace where it just sits and does one thing. It does sit and do one thing, but it also has like the panic button of, uh-oh, that needs to die. Boop. Blow up. But yeah, so this is see if we can get any more games in.